So what we did in the last video is like we structured the basic format of the project. We set the task decks, the GDD. We learned how to put properties in a card. So all of that's already preset for us. And now the second step would be to look into how to create pipelines or journeys, as we like to call them, and why they would be super helpful for any game project. So yeah, I'm passing it on to you. Can you please show me around and tell me how I can get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So last time, so I'm here in the hand. Let's go into the Decks view. And so you remember from last time, let me look at the project we set up, which is this fictitious project where we started from scratch. And we started by creating two spaces, one for the entities that you have in the game and one for the tasks that you have in the game or in the team. So the GDD is built around your game. The task space is built around your team, right? And we added already a couple of entity types, for example, explorers, and then we added two concrete ideas here for characters that we want to do. And we added a couple of tasks here. I assigned some of these tasks already. You are on character modeling duty.
Aye, aye.
And Daniel is doing a background story. So if I want to add another task here, I can say what's missing, like for example, sound. Let's add it to, do we have a sound tag? No, let's add it to art. You know, this way I can add new tasks. What I will find, especially as I proceed through pre-production and I create a couple of entities for the game and create the assets, I will find that, oh, that's starting to get annoying because I keep repeating the same tasks over and over again. And it's a lot of busy work entering them fresh again. Plus, I might forget about tasks. I want to add a nice checklist to a task. And then, so not only do I have to add the task, I also have to like add the contextual information every time. So last time you already said, we hinted at it last time, that we have a cool feature for that, which we call journeys, which is a way to template a pipeline, basically. You can access it by clicking on this scroll icon. This lands you on the screen. And here I can add steps. So let's say, okay, what do we need? Again, for a character, we need maybe concept art. And we need... So concept art, that should go into art. We just added sound, so we should have that. Let's say we need a custom code integration. Not very good at typing. This should go into the code. I could continue here. I can also customize these cards already. So for example, let's say I want to add a checklist here. So I can use this slash command here and then say research, compile, vision board, check guidelines. So this will save me a bit of work later on if I have to repeat this over and over. And I can already say the effort for this is usually 2 points based on our experience. Of course, the first time you're setting this up, you might not have this information yet. But let's assume we have done this a couple of times. I can also add an owner here. Say Maria is working on that. Can do the same for sound. I will do the sound. What could go wrong? So I have set up a couple of steps. And this is pretty cool because now, you know, we added this card for Ada Lovelace, which is a container for adding all the work that goes into building this character in the game. But now, this time, instead of creating each card one by one, I can just click the journey icon. And this will bring up the screen, and it already has like, it's showing me or suggesting these 3 steps that we just set up. I could go and say, oh, actually, this one, we don't need custom code integration because it will reuse some other stuff. Let's say, just for showing it off, I will just create all 3 cards. Okay, and now what happened? Well, if we check the sublist here, you can see all of these 3 cards have been created automatically. I can check out the subcards. I can find the checklist here that we created before, and so on. These are already pre-assigned to the right owner with the right effort and so on. And this is really powerful because the idea is that you can build a pipeline and a understanding of the scope of your game in this way. It's quite different than other tools if you think about it. Because this is not something that you can do trivially in a different tool because of they're just using a different paradigm than us, or rather we are using a new paradigm. So for example, other tools would have a Kanban board, but a Kanban board implies a kind of sequential order of steps, kind of similar to a waterfall model. Or you have a sequential order which is just about each state, like doing, done, and so on. But then you have a lot of cards for different areas of the team and so on. But for us, we can create all of these cards and we don't imply any specific order. We leave it to you. You can set up dependencies within that chain or within that sequence or not. You can have only specific tasks relate to each other. It's super flexible. Yeah, and that's so during pre-production, what people should be doing is build the scope out that they will have in the game and build out the journeys that they will have. And that will later unlock a capability or a forecasting ability, which we can talk about another time. But it's really cool way to save you a lot of busy work and also to think about these pipelines, because ultimately that's what a lot of game development is about. Initially, you're trying to figure out the game that you're doing. Then you're figuring out how to do it, and then you just do it. And if you go into this doing or production stage and you have these journeys set up, you can tweak them, you can modify them over time as you learn more. If you can add a QA step, you can add an integration step, whatever it is that you need, you can add. So this is an example where if you use Codecks in the suggested way, everything will start clicking together and so on. So if you set up a deck per entity type, you can have one journey per deck, and this journey will represent the workflow for this specific asset or entity. And then for the enemies, I can click here, and you will see I can set up a different journey for enemies. So for example, tune loot table, and this should go to Daniel, and this should be, it's a game design task, let's say. So now I have a different journey here, and depending on which deck I'm in, automatically the right journey will be triggered. So let's say it's you have a Battletoad enemy. So you can see there's a hero card that's ready for us to be, I can just collect ideas. The card is waiting here for me to be started the journey on when I'm ready, and then I can just click here and you'll see now I get access to a different workflow than before. This time it will suggest the loot table to create. And now I can look at the list and I can see our card here is ready to go. Obviously, very simple example with just one card. These things can grow to dozens of cards. On projects that we worked on, like on Curious Expedition 2, for example, we had journeys with like 20 steps. And we really made sure to hit every single aspect of every animation, every icon, every tweak that we needed to get something into the game was reflected there. And as I said, like over time, we could build out our knowledge about the process itself. You can even use so-called zones here. So I can split this into different aspects. So for example, I can create this container here, playtest, and I would say, let's say we have a process where we do a public playtest. It's part of our marketing. So now if I click on the journey button again, there's something interesting. So you can use the journey button whenever you want, and you can use it multiple times. So if I want to, I could even create another tune loot table card. In this case, it already tells me it's already created. So, but I could also say, okay, now I want to do the playtest. I will create this card now. So you could split up a pipeline into different steps, or split it into different categories depending on the specific item maybe that you're doing. Maybe there's like a battle item and a magic item, and they require slightly different workflow. You could use the journey templates in this way as well by using this zone feature. So it's pretty flexible and powerful.
What I also really like is, like, as a producer, you can have an overview of everything that needs to be done, but maybe as an artist, I don't really care to see like who has to do all of the stuff, so I can just get my card from the whole pipeline and focus on what I need to do.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really a powerful concept to understand. So I feel this gives you the best of both worlds. In a lot of tools, you have, I always say you're drowning in a sea of tickets. So you have dozens or hundreds and thousands of individual cards. Like a couple dozen might address a certain enemy in the game, but there's no concept of this enemy inside of your project management tool. And if that happens, that's kind of problematic, because in Codecks, if I go into the art deck and I'm an artist, I can find all the cards that I need or that are relevant for me. So I can see, okay, there's a concept art task for this character, Ada Lovelace. There's a character model task for this character, Jules Verne. Also, there's a sound task for him. There's also another sound task here. Very quickly, easy for me to find specific work that I'm looking for. But if I'm a stakeholder or producer or a publisher or something, or founder, or like somebody that needs like more a top level view, that's not interested in how many sound tasks are remaining, but maybe more in what is the state of this character? Will we be able to add them to the next update? I would rather go here and see, oh, Jules Verne, there are 4 tasks left. None of them have started, and so on. Obviously, yeah, that's depressing. So let's say this one is done. So now I can see this card is progressing towards being shippable. Once you have everything done, you can set the card to done as well. But you don't need to. Often I recommend keeping these hero cards around and just keep filling them up as you go through your production.
Nice. Cool. Then second question, how do you deal with one-off feature? How do you build game systems, like for instance, when you are working on a leaderboard or a save system or something that does not necessarily need a pipeline? How do you treat those?
Yeah, that's a good question. And one that often comes up when talking about this concept, that of course, what about these one-off systems that where you don't have a category, because every time it's like a one of one. For those instances, for those type of systems, I recommend creating a systems deck. Let's use this icon. It's one I like. And then add the cards in here. So what is the system that we need? Like, let's say we need a save system. What is something else? We need the credits. Let's say we add a main menu. But the main menu is probably not a good example, because I could imagine, you need different UIs, screens. So I would probably create a deck for it, because it's its own entity type. But let's say you need like a
okay.
leaderboard. That's good. Exactly. So these are 2 systems here. There would be many more, like movement system could be one, level loading, level streaming, things like that, multiplayer. So it works similar to the other decks, where I have 1 hero card per entity. It just happens to be that this entity is a one-off system, one of a kind. So, but as before, I can use this and just add cards here. Let's say let's add a code task for basic save and restore. And we can assign, we're using shortcut here O. And let's say Vedran is doing this. And as before, so when I'm interested in, somebody asks me, hey, what's the state of the save system? I can just go here and have a quick overview. If I am a programmer, I can go to my code deck and find all the things that I need to do. And I can find for example, this card, the save system. So it works in a similar way, kind of this hybrid idea, just with the difference that for systems, you wouldn't set up a journey necessarily, because there is no template to be done there. Each of these systems will require a unique process of being implemented. So you don't get to benefit from the journeys in that case, but you can still benefit from like this nice setup where you have a hero card and the associated work as subcards.
So we learned about journeys, we learned about game systems. So the next step would be to figure out how to set milestones and define our runs, which people tend to call sprints, but we think it's better to call them runs. So yeah, we see you in the next video for that.